Why do billionaires give away their fortune? Imagine waking up one morning to find out you are worth $100 billion. That's more money than entire countries, enough to buy islands, private cities, or even small nations if the law allowed it. Now, imagine deciding to give away most of it. Why would anyone even do that? Why would anyone even want to give away what they have worked for their entire lives? Is it guilt? Is it boredom? Is it legacy? Or is there something deeper, something almost spiritual about the act of giving for those who have tasted the full power of wealth? This question is a window into the minds of some of the most powerful humans alive today. And we are going to dig deep into this phenomenon. Stay tuned at ATN 360. So, in 2010, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett launched something called a giving pledge, a campaign inviting billionaires to commit at least half of their wealth to charity during their lifetimes or in their wills. Today, over 240 of the world's richest individuals and families have signed it, from Mark Zuckerberg to Mackenzie Scott. But here is something many do not realize. The giving pledge is not a legal binding contract. It is a moral commitment. Anyone who signs it can choose not to follow through. But yet, many do. Why? For many centuries, the ultra-rich have sought immortality, not by defying death, but by engraving their names into history. Ancient kings built monuments and pyramids. Renaissance nobles sponsored cathedrals and paintings. Industrialists like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller funded universities and libraries. Carnegie believed it was disgraceful to die rich. Can you imagine that? Rockefeller, whose business practices were often condemned, spent the last decade of his life building what would become the largest private foundation in the world at the time. Today, billionaires follow in their footsteps, but with a global mindset. Bill Gates Foundation, for instance, spent over $5 billion annually, making it more powerful in global health fundings than many governments. In tech circles, philanthropy is sometimes called the ultimate startup. You identify a problem, deploy resources, you measure outcomes, except instead of building apps, you are eradicating diseases or transforming education systems. For example, Jim Scholes, the first president of eBay, created the Scholes Foundation, focusing on social entrepreneurship, treating social problems with the same urgency and scale as market disruptions. This mindset reframes giving as the extension of the billionaire's identity. Problem solvers, innovators, and world shapers. Is it boredom or evolution? It is tempting to assume that billionaires come bored with wealth. After all, if you have everything, what's next? But psychologists argue it is less about boredom and more about evolution of motivation. Initially, wealth is about survival and comfort. Then it becomes about power and freedom. But at the highest level, it transforms into meaning and legacy. This is called Maslow's hierarchy of need. And at that top lies self-actualization, the desire to create something bigger than one's self. Philanthropy for billionaires is often about fulfillment than final human need. But what about their families? Many may wonder, don't their children want this money, this huge amount of money? Interestingly, Warren Buffett plans to leave less than 1% of his wealth to his children, arguing that inherited fortune can strip people of purpose. Bill Gates had similar thing in believing his children will thrive with education and opportunity rather than trust funds. Some billionaire here, like Abigail Disney, openly criticize wealth hoarding, arguing that inherited billions creates moral appetite. She once said, I don't think of wealth as evil, but I think of unchecked wealth as deeply problematic. But philanthropy has its shadow, the dark side. Critics argue that billionaire giving can be a form of reputation laundering. When vast wealth is accumulated through systems that exploit workers or evade taxes, giving back small fraction can cleanse public image while leaving systematic injustice untouched. Moreover, when billionaire funds public health, education, and climate programs, they effectively decide global priorities. The Bill Gates Foundation, for instance, influences vaccine distribution, agricultural policies, and education curricula worldwide. This raises questions about democratic accountability. Who elected billionaires to decide humans' future? Here is something rarely discussed in public narratives. In the United States and some other countries, when billionaires donate to private foundations they control, they receive significant tax deductions immediately, but are only required to spend a little as 5% of foundation's assets per year. This means that donation can function more like financial vehicle that directs acts of charity. Critics argue it entrenches billionaire power by shifting public funds into private control under the guise of philanthropy. However, defenders argue that regardless of tax benefits, these foundations often fund lifestyle intervention programs like governments have failed to deliver. Is there a spiritual dimension like act of redemption? Beyond strategy and reputation, there is a spiritual element. Many philanthropists describe giving as an act of redemption, realizing that their wealth came at societal or environmental cost. They seek to give back. For example, Von Koynard, founder of Patagonia, recently transferred ownership of its company worth over $3 billion to a trust dedicated entirely to fight climate change. His explanation was simple: Earth is now our stakeholder. This act stunned the corporate world because it went beyond reputation or tax benefits. It was a philosophical decision to align wealth with planetary survival. Philanthropy varies across cultures. In Islam, zakat, giving a percentage of income to the poor, is a religious obligation. In Christianity, tithing functions similarly. Hinduism, Buddhism, and African traditional system all include concept of dana, that's dana or communal redistribution. However, modern billionaire philanthropy is unique because it combines ancient cultural expectations with global capitalism and personal branding. Are they fixing problems or buying gratitude? Critics ask a deeper question. If billionaires truly care about fixing inequalities, would they not advocate for fairer taxation, living wages, and systemic reforms rather than personal charity? Rutger Bregman, a historian and critic of billionaire influence, once said at Davos, "It feels like I am at a firefighters conference and no one's allowed to talk about water." His point was simple. Philanthropy tackles symptoms while ignoring systemic causes that keeps wealth concentrated amongst the few. Those are the elites. So while discussing this, we are going to talk about the paradox. Billionaires' philanthropy has funded malaria eradication programs, clean water projects, educational scholarship, and climate research, things that save lives and advance societies. But it also highlights a broken system where life-saving solution depends on the preference of a few individuals rather than on democratic accountability structures. In a sense, it asks us, do we want a world where billionaires' generosity solves problems, or a world where such extreme wealth is unnecessary? in the first place? Globally, philanthropy is also a tool of soft power. American billionaires fund health, education, and democracy initiatives worldwide, extending culture and economic influence. Chinese billionaires increasingly fund national projects aligned with government goals, while Middle Eastern philanthropies often support religious and community welfare aligned with cultural expectations. At its core, billionaire giving is not just about them. It is a mirror reflecting human aspirations, ethics, power, and meaning we seek beyond material life. It shows us that money alone does not fulfill, that once humans reach the peak of wealth, they seek to answer same question we all do. What is my purpose? What will I leave behind? Will I be remembered for what I dealt or what I gave? Final question. If you woke up tomorrow with $100 billion, what would you do with it? Would you keep it, give it away, or change the system that created such wealth in the first place? Philanthropy is not just about charity. It is about power, ethics, legacy, and the deep human need to find meaning among ourselves. I would like you to share your thoughts below. Would you give away your fortune or keep it for your family? Thank you for joining us at ATN 360.